You've got your 0% management fees, or just the lowest in the industry. No mass multi-entry, no 150 max, just 10. And a way to get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points if you sign up through us at awesomemode.com. It's a win-win situation. If you're not playing there yet, what are you waiting for? Oh, and by the way, if you want to get those $30, here's a simple way to do it. Use the sign-up code AWESEMO, AWESEMO. Get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points when you deposit. You can use it on the site. It's good as cash to be used on Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. And we all win. Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, sponsor of the Deeper Dive. All right, now. I'm Dave Lockren. That's Adam Scher. And the man, Alex Baker, Awesemo himself. Boys, we got a 15-game slate. We say we jump right into this one.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, let's do it. Well, Alex, you spoke first. We'll stick with you. How about we go to New York and Toronto? We've got Chad Green opening this one up. Clayton Richard on the other side of this game. The Yankees are projected to score a few runs here. It's very odd that you see a team that has an implied run total that is more than 3 runs higher than their opponent, especially when it's not Max Scherzer on the mound or Chris Sale, but Chad Green opening this one up. 7.7 at Yankee Stadium. You may even have it a little bit higher by the way you calculate them. 4.5 for Toronto. Yankees are monster favorites. They've got a juggernaut of an offense from top to bottom. As I said this morning, Clayton Richard would have been smarter calling out sick for this one.
Well, because of our conversation pre-show, I mean, Clayton Richard, he's only 4,800 on DraftKings, and he's going to go like 4 or 5 innings. So for that price tag, you're getting a lot of innings per dollar. In addition, Chad Green, I mean, he's the opposite. He doesn't go deep in games at all, just an opener. But he struck out 29% of batters on the year. So I have to give them both a wholehearted recommendation tonight.
My guess is you like some hitters here as well.
Yeah, how did you know? I mean, like, as you mentioned, the team totals are high, and I'm seeing a lot of great values popping out. So basically 1 through 9 on both teams get my full endorsement, especially Vlad Guerrero batting second. Just a really great value in DraftKings and Yahoo. And then on the Yankees side, they have these 2 power hitters named Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. Are you guys familiar with them?
Heard of them, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they can definitely hit some homers, especially with the 7.8 team total. It's one of the highest we've seen all year for any team. So you gotta love the Yankees tonight.
All right, Adam, bring us back to reality. I promise you people are watching right now and they have no idea what to take seriously or what to write off as nonsense. You're going to have people like, yeah, I watched the Deeper Dive, so I'm rolling with Chad Green and Clayton Richard with a full Yankee stack.
I mean, the Yankees, this is like the highest implied run total I can remember seeing ever, especially not in Coors. But
well, I'm going to say Coors had a 7.7, a 7.8 this year when Baltimore was in town. But
that sounds right. Yeah.
But no, outside of Coors Field, I don't ever remember seeing. I don't even know if I've seen a 7 outside of Coors.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I looked at it and I messaged Josh and I said, "Is this really the implied run total here?" And then I looked at the line and they're like -290 favorites with a 12.
Dude, we spent 10 minutes. We spent 10 minutes on the strategy show trying to figure out if it was real or not. Right.
So I mean, it's insane and it makes sense. I mean, they have top to bottom just tons of right-handed power in this lineup. Clayton Richard, even when he was good by his standards, struggled with right-handed power. Now he's not even really good by any standards and still struggles with right-handed power. So, outside of the fact that it's baseball and weird stuff happens, there's just no reason not to like the Yankees here. Richard against righties this year is allowed 293 ISO, 428 WOBA. Both of those numbers are really, really bad, and he doesn't strike guys out either. So the Yankees are a little expensive, but outside of that, the only thing that makes it tough to get to the Yankees is they're expensive, but also the bottom tier of pitching today is just brutal. Like there's not even really guys that I feel confident rostering at all. So that makes it a little bit tough. But Just, really good plays top to bottom. As Alex mentioned, the Judge and Stanton in particular are underpriced. And then on the other side, Vlad Guerrero, I think, is a really, really good option. Really inexpensive, sitting at 3,200 on DraftKings. He's just too good of a hitter for that price tag. And when you have such limited pitching options, even though it's a 15-game slate, just not pitchers that you really feel confident in most spots, finding those really underpriced values is an easy way to, get decent pitching and still get the bats that you want.
Absolutely. Alex, anything else to add on this game, since it is such a ridiculous high total, and Yankees obviously going to pop as one of the most, projected to be one of the most productive teams, the most productive team on the slate?
Just said I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay. All right. You're in a good mood today. We had a question about Nestor Cortez Jr. I know he was recalled the other day. Do we have confirmed? Is it confirmed? I know last time Green opened, he was the guy. But do we have confirmation that it's going to be Cortez again?
I hadn't seen. I'm pulling it up now.
I'm assuming it is, but I don't think it's been confirmed. Do you know, Alex?
Last time, I played Nestor Cortez in my spreadsheet. He didn't really have much value, so I don't really see much point in going there, even if you're pretty sure he's going to pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like he's supposed to pitch. But yeah, I guess I kind of have interest because he's only 4K on DraftKings, and Toronto's not very good. So even if you get 4 or 5 innings out of him, the low tier of pitching is just so bad today that I don't think it's crazy.
Okay. Yeah, so he threw 75, 76, 72, 57. I don't know how many innings he's going to go, but this Toronto team isn't particularly strong. They have a top 5 K rate against lefties. It's not crazy. I don't know if it's necessary, but he is the cheapest you get. I guess, Adam, if I were to ask you, if you were looking at, the bottom of this, you have Josh Rogers, Sparkman, Clayton Richard, Jesse Chavez, was it Walker Lockett, right? Walker Lockett. Yeah. Would you go to any of those guys over Cortez?
No, that's kind of the thing. It's not like Cortez is a great pitcher. It's not like he's going to throw 100 pitches or anything, but he's at least the very minimum. Whereas you have, Jesse Chavez is in a really good spot, but he's not likely to throw any more pitches than Cortez is, and he's 1,300 more on DraftKings. Sparkman is he's not a strikeout pitcher, and he's in a reasonably difficult matchup against Cleveland. Lockett is terrible. Zimmerman's terrible. Josh Rogers for Baltimore is terrible. So I don't know. I can see getting to some Cortez.
All right. Yeah, you know what it is? You have just way more passion for how bad they are than for how good Cortez is.
Exactly. Cortez is just okay, whatever. Nestor Cortez is there. Everyone else is just these guys are bad.
You actually get nauseous. Yeah, I hear you.
Right.
Well, to my man Alex Matos in chat who asked about him, I added him to my projections of him for 9 points on DraftKings. So decent value, and if I could see going there if you have Scherzer or something.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, Scherzer and then a Yankee stack or something, or a Padres stack. That's right. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Padres and Baltimore. I say that with all sincerity too. This is Josh and I discussed it at length on the strategy show today. One of his favorite stacks. I really like them, Adam, against who is, as you just said, terrible. And they are not cheap. But now, there's a lot of site-specific discussion that we'll have here because FanDuel is different. But the San Diego Padres on DraftKings have the second highest top stack probability among 30 teams. And their 5.5% projected ownership is 1, 2, 3. It's 7th. But that's also way lower than their top stack probability and their value. Even at an expensive price point, their value is the 3rd highest on DraftKings. I just have no faith in Josh Rogers to be able to pitch a decent game here. A slew of power righties for the Padres. Great park shift in Baltimore. good weather in Baltimore. I mean, I really like the Padres here. And, you know, if you're talking about a quote-unquote pay up to be contrarian, even though they're not super unowned, compared to the upside they have on this slate, it seems like they're going a bit overlooked.
Yeah, completely agree. Like Josh Rogers, we had talked about it before he pitched against, I think it was Oakland. He was allowing more than 2 home runs per 9 at AAA for the Orioles this year, despite pitching in an incredibly pitcher-friendly park in Norfolk, outside of the PCL, so in a league that favors pitchers also. Just getting blown up, doesn't get strikeouts. Now you have a lot of right-handed power for the Padres. On DraftKings, they're fine. They're just really expensive. But you mentioned on FanDuel that they're not even expensive. You have Tatis at like 3,800. Renfroe is inexpensive. I mentioned both of those guys along with Ian Kinsler specifically in the deep dive article on FanDuel. But even on DraftKings, like Franmil Reyes at 4,200 really stands out. And then you're paying up for guys like Tatis, Machado, Renfroe. But still just a really high upside spot here for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you agree, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I think the days of the Padres being the punching bag of DFS is over because, I mean, their farm system was one of the best from what I've heard, and they got a good lineup today. My calculation for them is that they have a team average of 20% ISO. That's about 15% higher than your average lineup in the MLB. They're getting on base at league average rate, and they're hitting for average 10% higher than league average with this lineup. So I think that I think you gotta like the Padres, and facing a really bad pitcher, like just all the factors are aligning that they're definitely one of the top teams to play in DFS tonight.
Okay. What about the other side of this one with Baltimore going up against Logan Allen, whose MLB debut was pretty damn impressive against a really good Brewers team?
I think you can go there on all 3 sites. I like that team total of 4.8 for Baltimore. That is above average. So some of these guys are showing up as good values, particularly on DraftKings and FanDuel. Renato Nunez is super cheap. He's probably the one guy that you might consider in cash on FanDuel. And then on Yahoo, the whole team is pretty cheap. So I think you can make some pretty high projected lineups with stacking the Orioles, and they're not going to be super high owned. So I think that could be a good contrarian play.
Adam, do you have any interest in Baltimore bats here? Because many of them are pretty cheap.
Not a ton is full stacks, but I do agree with Nunez in particular. Just really cheap, especially 2,600 on FanDuel, 37 on DraftKings is nice. Severino batting third gives you a catcher option at a good spot in the order. Mancini's really good, but he's priced like it. I think the chances of Baltimore winning the slate with 29 other offenses and with teams like the Padres and the Yankees, among others, is really low. But they certainly have guys that are going to be low owned that can help you fill out your lineup because they're cheap.
Okay, let's keep it moving then. Alex, Philly and New York Mets, Walker, Lockett, Jake Arrieta. Lockett has done absolutely nothing at any level to suggest that he's someone we should be worried about. On the other side, Jake Arrieta has been, I want to say below average to bad at times. Against righties, sure, he's been fine. But, man, you look at some of these numbers against lefties that we talked into the ground last week because he had 3 straight postponed games. But the 374 wall with 228 ISO, 2.25 home runs per 9 to lefties. And it's not like he's been unlucky either. He's got a 5.82 xFIP, a 12% walk rate, a 1% K-minus BB rate. I could read a laundry list of reasons that suggests Arrieta has been legitimately bad and will continue to be bad against lefties. Does that pique your interest today against a Mets team that is running out 4 lefties in the top 6 of their lineup?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't super high on them, but you definitely piqued my interest there. I think that overall, there's some really good one-offs from the Mets. overall, like their price tags are pretty high. On DraftKings, only one player is showing to be above average value. And in case you couldn't guess, that's Robinson Cano. Apparently, DraftKings is still thinking that he's on the Mariners or something because his price stays the same. The rest of the Mets like goes way up. So
Yeah.
I gotta like that. On Yahoo, we have Cano projected for 37% ownership, which is really kind of crazy. Just $7, like a pretty good projection. So that will do it. But on FanDuel, I think they're a little bit better priced, especially Dominic Smith at 2,200, just really good value. But like the 5.3 team total, I think that you might be able to find some better value stacks that are also kind of at the same ownership.
Okay. Adam, what about you? Super friendly hitting conditions here, 85 degrees at a really homer-friendly park. Feel free to touch on both sides of this game because, I think we're all expecting, whether we're on these teams or not, to see a lot of runs. The over-under is up to 11 on this one. And I'll tell you what, man, we've just seen totals climb and climb and climb over the past couple of years. The Phillies, 6.2 runs at home. Hell, even those type of run totals for a Philly team at Citizens Bank Park is unusual.
Yeah, we're getting into that time of year too with the way the ball's flying, and it clearly is wound tighter, I guess, than it used to be. And now you're getting the warm weather to go with it. So we're already seeing historic home run totals, and it's just going to get higher. We have a ton of teams with implied run totals over 6 now, whereas it used to be that was like the highest on the slate if anyone got there. So the Phillies, I think, are in an interesting spot because I wouldn't expect them to get a ton of ownership since you have the Yankees, you have a Wrigley win game that we haven't talked about, you have the Padres. You have like 25 other teams. But Lockett really hasn't been good at any level, like you said. And the Phillies are still affordable. They're not quite as cheap as they were earlier in the week, but, still talking about a $4,500 DraftKings price tag on Harper, $4,600 on Hoskins, sub 4K on JT Realmuto at catcher. So I think Philly as a stack is pretty appealing. And then on the other side, like mixing and matching some of these Mets lefties makes sense to me. Arrieta has been really good against righties this year, but they don't have in the top 6. The only righties they have are Alonso and Frazier. Alonso's a monster, so I don't really care how good Arrieta's been against righties. And against lefties, Arrieta's allowed a 229 ISO, a 380 WOBA, and he's only struck out 14%. So, as Alex said, as far as value goes, Robinson Cano really stands out. But then you get from Michael Conforto, you get Jeff McNeil and Dominic Smith from the left side as well. So leaning towards full stacking Philadelphia and probably like mini stacking the Mets.
Okay. Yeah, I agree on both sides of this. There should be a good amount of runs today. It's just one of those games where you're going to continue to see a ton of home runs, man. This park has just been insane for home run purposes. It really has. Okay. Let's actually, Adam, do you have anything else for this one before we move on?
That's it for me.
All right. Adam, God, doing it again. Look, I'm back in my old ways. Alex, do you have anything else for this one?
I'll just throw out, I think JT Realmuto could be a really good cash play on DraftKings because reasonable salary and he fills that catcher position with a guy with a pretty high projection, which is pretty hard to find.
All right, let's talk about Boston and the White Sox, Adam. David Price coming off a rough start last time out and the time before that. But actually, last start was just a complete lack of strikeouts against Minnesota. It was that Texas game that he got blown up, didn't make it 2 innings. But all in all, he's been solid this year. He's been a north of a strikeout per inning guy. He's allowed only 7 home runs on the season, which is pretty impressive. And now he'll face a White Sox team that has some strikeouts in the lineup. They're also going to run out a 7-righty lineup today. And the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park have a pretty robust implied total of 6.7. So it just, it just gets wilder and wilder. We've got how many teams do you think have a total north of 6 tonight, Adam?
At least 5.
8. Crazy, right? Crazy, man. It's really insane the type of numbers we're seeing here. Anyway, what do you make of this pitching matchup? Fulmer on the other side, and then we can talk hitters.
Yeah, so Carson Fulmer getting the start for the White Sox. Former top prospect who's never really amounted to anything, and now he goes in to face the Red Sox in Fenway. Obviously siding with the Red Sox here and their 6.7 implied run total. So just another, really good stack. They're expensive as well, but their lineup is pretty appealing because you have Jackie Bradley hitting 5th. He's inexpensive for one, and like we talked about on a show the other day, he's changed his swing, and it's coincided with him hitting really, really well. And so I think he's a really good value in the middle of that lineup. You get a catcher batting 6th. Michael Chavis has plenty of power hitting 7, so he's a low-owned power bat you can get there. It's just a pretty good lineup. Rafael Devers with the lineup boost as well, so really expensive, but hitting a little bit higher in the order than usual.
Okay. Anyone stand out to you here, Alex?
Betts and Martinez, as they do every slate, somehow are always underpriced. So I think you gotta like them. And then I'm not really seeing a lot from either the White Sox batters or David Price, except on FanDuel. I see David Price is supposed to. Well, I guess Price is supposed to be getting ownership on every site, but he's not really showing up as a great value for me. I guess the strikeouts look like they could be there tonight. The White Sox lineup striking out 5% more than average, and his K percent on the year is 27%, so that all looks nice. So I think he makes sense, but maybe it's just a little bit overpriced.
Okay. Alex or Adam, what do you make of the rest of hitting here? Anything stand out? Again, I know I mentioned it a couple times already, but we're getting some pretty solid temperatures everywhere. This one, it looks like we might have some light rain. It's not hot in Boston, but the humidity is pretty insane. It's like 95% humidity.
Yeah, most of my interest from this game is on the Red Sox side, the offense, as I mentioned, but also I like David Price here. I think that the price tag on him is reasonable. He has struck out about 27.5% of hitters this season. He struck out over 28% of right-handed hitters in particular. He's just been good overall. He's limiting the walks. Across the board, he's been a good pitcher this year. So he's someone that I think gives you upside at his price tag without having to break the bank.
Okay. Do you guys want to touch on anything else from this game before we keep it going? We've got a lot to go.
Nope.
All right. And I'm assuming no White Sox hitters?
Nothing that stands out.
Kansas City and Cleveland. Alex, Shane Bieber going up against a Cleveland team a Kansas City team that really relies on small ball to get the job done, whereas Bieber's had most of the damage done against him by way of home runs. And that actually if you look at his numbers, it'll tell you exactly basically what I'm saying. Against lefties, he has a 240 ISO against them and 2 home runs per 9, but only a 117 whip and a 318 wOBA. So also a 32% K rate. It's almost all power. He has a 306 xFIP too. And then against righties, he's striking them out at 30+%. I know it's tough to get to Bieber on a night where you've got guys like Scherzer. I guess you can throw Cole into the conversation. But is there any interest here for Bieber against Kansas City and what seems like a pretty solid matchup?
Let me rewind just a second to correct something I just said. I found a typo in my spreadsheet. So David Price, it looked a little off. So that's one thing I love about doing the shows is you kind of have to justify everything you're saying. And I fixed that. So he's showing up as a much better play, especially on FanDuel. Shane Bieber, looking at his numbers today, I mean, they pretty much jump off the charts. Like 31% strikeouts, 3.2 xFIP. The matchup is versus a team that is below average in pretty much every category, but unfortunately including strikeouts. The main thing, though, is I think that Bieber is projected, you can project him to have a fantastic game today. Like, the guy I'm really thinking about is Max Scherzer, just facing Miami. So that's really going to mitigate my interest in other high-priced pitchers.
Okay. Yeah, Adam, it's a weird spot for Bieber, but he's just flashed such high upside this year with the strikeouts, and we're seeing 30+% strikeouts against lefties and righties, which is a rarity with even some of the best pitchers in the league.
Yeah, there's no real question that he has upside here, but I agree with Alex. Like, the reason that I'm not really getting to him, I have him as my third highest projected pitcher on the slate. It's just that he's up in that same price tier with Gerrit Cole and Max Scherzer, who I have way ahead of Bieber. So it's really tough for me to justify paying up for him because I think he's really priced for his upside more than his like medium projection or anything like that. One thing that does stand out to me from Kansas City is Lucas Duda is in the lineup. He's batting 7th, but he's really, really cheap across the industry. Since last season, Duda's got a 201 ISO against right-handed pitching, and Bieber does give up. He doesn't walk guys, so he works in the strike zone a lot, and he gives up a ton of power when guys do put the ball in play. So I think that's a high upside value bat that you could get to at low ownership that'll help you get to some expensive stacks.
What about any other hitters in this one?
Sparkman has struggled a bit with lefties. Since last year, he's allowed a 191 ISO, 346 WOBA, and he doesn't strike guys out. So, if you wanted to get to some, like Lindor, Santana, Kipnis, Ramirez, Bobby Bradley, like there's a ton of lefties in the Cleveland lineup. Bradley in particular, I think, is interesting because he has a ton of power and he has a massive strikeout percentage, but Sparkman doesn't strike guys out. So I think that plays to his strengths, but I don't think Cleveland's a priority for him. Be more of just like a secondary stack.
Okay. Yeah. Alex, does Cleveland stand out to you as a team of interest? It's funny because they have a implied total of what, 6 runs, but so do 100 other teams. So normally that would be really, really appealing. I'm not saying it isn't, but how appealing are they today on a slate with a ton of bats?
I think they're super appealing. Well, maybe I exaggerate a little bit, but I think MLB definitely have some significant exposure. Adam mentioned Bradley, who I think is a really, really solid play for cash on FanDuel and Yahoo just because he's mid-priced and has so much power. And then, a lot of the batters on the team are grading out as above average values on all 3 sites. So Lindor on DraftKings and FanDuel is very reasonably priced. And then Ramirez is super low. Bradley, as we mentioned. So I think you can make some pretty nice rosters with these guys. And the thing I like the most is the ownership. Single digits for every player on Cleveland on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's a little bit higher, but there are some players that are jumping out as exceptional values. So I think you can really make some nice tournament lineups by having Cleveland.
All right. 5 down, 10 to go. Next one we've got is Detroit and Texas. Adam, Jordan Zimmerman, Jesse Chavez. Here's a fun one. You know what? I'll go straight to you because Josh and I had this discussion this morning for quite a while that, on the surface it would look like this game is super appealing, but the more kind of layers I peeled, I found myself less and less enthusiastic about either side of it. Are you getting the heavy exposure on either of these teams?
Pretty enthusiastic about the Texas side. I think that so a lot of the teams we've talked about that have really high implied run totals, they're also really expensive, but that's not the case with Texas. They don't have a single guy in their lineup on DraftKings above 5K. You have Chu, Andrus, and Gallo at 4,900.
Yeah, Gallo being back helps too.
Yeah, Gallo being back helps a ton. Willie Calhoun batting second gives you some value. Mazzara is obviously a good hitter, as is Chu. And then you get cheap guys at the bottom of the order, whether it's Forsythe, Odor, or Guzman, just to kind of round out your stack. And Jordan Zimmerman is bad. He didn't look good at all in his first start back from the injured list. Since last year, he's allowed a 240 ISO to left-handed hitters, which is primarily what he's going to be facing in this lineup. And while it's not Texas, Detroit is still a hitter's park, and it is warm there. So I think that Texas is coming in, like if I look at my initial crunches for DraftKings, Texas came in as like my 6th highest stack behind, the Yankees and the Padres and the Red Sox and those teams. But I think that the value that they offer makes it so you can get a little bit better pitching.
All right. Alex, do you find any excitement in targeting this Texas team today?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jordan Zimmerman's not very scary. Guy coming off the injured list a couple starts ago, so I think you gotta like him, especially. I think the whole Midwest is pretty warm right now, so I think you can definitely project Texas to be a good play today. And I especially like them on FanDuel, where the ownership is pretty low. On DraftKings, actually it's pretty low on every site, so I think they make a pretty nice tournament stack with that 5.9 team total.
All right. Any interest in these Detroit Bats against Chavez?
Yeah, I think you can definitely play some Detroit as well. Their 4.8 team total might get lost in the crowd tonight, and I only have them projected as a 1.4% chance of being the top stack of the night. But some of the players are grading out as above average values, especially the first three in the order.
Adam, thoughts on Detroit at all?
The only one that really stands out to me is Castellanos. Chavez has allowed a 223 ISO to Reddy so far this year, and Castellanos is like always underpriced, just I guess because he's on the Tigers. But nothing that is a huge priority for me when there's 30 teams and half of them have massive implied run totals.
Okay. How about Washington and Miami, Adam? You've got Max Scherzer on the mound. Obviously a phenomenal spot against Miami. He is expensive, but he's also a massive favorite for good reason, going up against the worst team in baseball. There really isn't a whole lot to say about it outside of Scherzer's incredible. The Marlins are terrible. He's also expensive, but, the shot of a complete game shutout isn't exactly outrageous either. They are right now 240 money line favorites, significant favorites, 73% chance of winning this game, and that's hardly surprising to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a really, really good spot for Scherzer. There's nothing really negative that I can point out. The only issue is just his price tag for me. And in tournaments, I'll be happy with any Scherzer I get to. I just don't know how much that'll really be on this slate because there are so
many expensive bats.
Right, so many expensive bats that I want. And while the cheaper end of pitching isn't very good today, the mid-range does have some high upside arms like David Price, like Jack Flaherty, who we'll talk about.
Bumgarner's going to face 6 lefties at Oracle.
Yeah, that Bumgarner too. That salary range of pitching does have some upside. You have a good point per dollar arm in Cortez that we talked about. So the thing with paying up for Scherzer in tournaments is that a lot of people are still going to do it. We have him at 30% ownership right now. So let's say a third of the field pays up for Scherzer. That limits your roster construction to some extent because either you can only get so creative. You're either going Scherzer plus Cortez and getting in some decent bats, or you're going Scherzer plus another good pitcher and you're limited in what you can do hitting wise. So if Scherzer comes out there and has any issues, like if he just gets BABIP'd and gives up a couple of runs, you're really in trouble when you talk about that price tag and what you had to pay up for hitter wise. And then also looking at the Marlins lineup, they already are only in the middle of the pack in strikeout percentage against right-handed pitching this year, but they do have 4 lefties in there, 5 through 8 in the order. All will be hitting left-handed against Scherzer, and that's not a huge deal, but his strikeout percentage against left-handed hitters this year is 27.3% compared to 39.1 against righties. So you're paying an absolute premium for Scherzer, and you're getting a lineup that isn't full of righties like it normally would be. So again, if I get lineups that work out with Scherzer, I'm happy about it, but I'm not jamming him in the lineups like I would on some other slates.
Okay. Do you have any differing thoughts on Scherzer today, Alex? Because I think Adam makes a bunch of good points. It's an enviable spot, but he's also really expensive, and if you're playing him, it will keep you from loading up on 5K bats, and there are a lot of really good expensive bats across the board today.
Yeah, I have to agree with Adam that this is not the best strikeout matchup. What is really appealing is that this is one of the lowest team totals we've seen all year for any team of 3. And I think Miami's offense is really weak, especially when it comes to power. which is one way that Scherzer has had problems in the past. As far as lineup construction, I think that it definitely limits your lineup to have that expensive guy in there, but the projection is pretty high, so I think the risk is worth the reward. And I mean, it's not like a mandatory play. I'm gonna have lineups with a lot of different like lineup construction, but I can't think of any reason why I wouldn't want to play Scherzer. Like, I mean, I'd be really excited to have him in a lineup, and if I find a cheap stack I like, that would be a nice pairing.
All right. Do you have any interest in bats in this game? It seems like a tough one to get excited about.
If it was a little bit of a less batter-friendly slate, Washington might be playable, but on DraftKings, there's some guys that are decent values, but I just think they're going to get lost in the crowd, and there's not much reason to really dig that deep.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. Do you, Adam?
Nope.
All right. We keep powering forward. I told you we were going to get through some of these games quickly. Chicago and Atlanta. This is one we can spend some time on, Alex. Adbert Alzolay, not Albert, Adbert, and Max Fried in Wrigley Field. Second straight Wrigley win game. Yesterday, I'd say was probably disappointing to a lot of people, outside of Jake. Congrats, Jake, on a huge night.
Nice.
But as far as me, I know Adam, you had a good amount of the Braves too. I mean, I have no problem going right back to them again tonight. You have run totals for both of these teams that are towards the top. Both of them at 6.1 here, a 12 over under. So Alex, I'll go to you first. Alzolay and Max Fried, who has definitely been vulnerable all season long. He's been decent, but he hasn't been infallible whatsoever. I think we could see a lot of runs once again.
Yeah, firstly, I give a shout out to Spags and to Jake for teaching us all how to pronounce Alzolay last week. So kudos to that. I think these guys.
Wait, did I pronounce it wrong?
No, it's just like on the Live Before Lock show. They're just like they tried saying his name like a zillion times. It was a good moment.
Okay.
But
let's say there are many more difficult names than Alzolay in this league.
I mean, you gotta like the first name too, Adbert, as you pointed out.
Yeah, that. Yeah, they forgot the L, added a D.
So I think, I mean, a Wrigley win game, you're not going to be terribly interested in pitchers. These are some good pitchers, which mitigates the effect of the wind. Adbert, in particular, like, just been getting huge strikeout numbers in the minors this year. And there are a lot of strikeouts in the majors these days, so I expect that to continue. And I think the big difference between today and yesterday with this game is that the ownership is like a lot lower. Yesterday we had Schwarber projected for like 50% ownership, and this today averaging out in the teens on all three sites. Still a great value. And on FanDuel, the Cubs are super underpriced, which is driving up their ownership a ton. So I might avoid them on FanDuel and GPPs and then on Yahoo. But on DraftKings, I like them a little bit better. And then Atlanta also, I really like them today in addition to yesterday. Like, especially on FanDuel, they got pretty high prices. So I think it might be a good pay up to be contrarian spot.
What are you doing here, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, both offenses are clearly perfectly, fine to go to. I have respect for both pitchers. Fried, his strikeout numbers are down this year, but he does a really good job of not giving up barreled balls. He also has a 53.3% ground ball percentage this year. And if you hit the ball on the ground, the wind is not getting it over the fence for you. So
is that how it works?
Yeah, normally, yeah.
Okay.
So that's something working in his favor as well. And then Alzolay, more of a fly ball pitcher, but also a very, very high strikeout pitcher. Atlanta, of course, is difficult to strike out normally. So I like Atlanta a little bit more than I like the Cubs. But like Alex said, the ownership on this game, just because of the way the slate is going to be much lower than yesterday. So I have interest going there. I am also getting to some Max Fried in particular on DraftKings, just because he is 6,700. It's kind of a dead price range at pitcher, and I think he's more talented than anyone around him, outside of maybe Alzolay. But I think Alzolay's matchup is scary, and his profile as far as batted balls go is scarier than Fried's.
Okay. All right. Well, where do you have these teams ranked as in terms of top stacks for you today, Adam?
Top 5.
Both of them?
Yep.
Okay. Just curious. I know you said
Yeah.
Fried is interesting, so I want to get a better idea of that.
I manually cut my projections on both of these teams a little bit because they were coming in as like my 2 highest projected by a lot, and I don't think that's where they should be. But I still think they should be right up there in the conversation with the Padres and Boston and everyone else.
Okay, makes sense to me. Do you want to add anything, Alex, since this is one of the games? This was a game with 2 teams with implied totals north of 6.
Yeah, I mean the over-under of 12 for the game looks a little bit nicer than it actually is, since it's so evenly distributed between the 2 really good offenses. So I think really good spots, but not the best on the slate.
All right, let's keep going then. No slowing down now. We've got the Minnesota Twins, Tampa Bay Rays. Alex, we have Blake Snell on the mound, and we've got Kyle Gibson. I'll tell you what, man, Blake Snell, he's lost a couple ticks of velocity recently over his last 2 games, but it seems like, the fact that he's walked 8 batters over his last 2 starts is heinous, and he's faced 26 batters over that span. He's allowed 58 of them to reach base on either a hit or a walk. On the flip side of that, his last 3 matchups have come against the Red Sox, the Angels, and the Yankees, and he's priced at $9,000 on DraftKings. This is the reigning AL Cy Young winner. He's $9,200 on FanDuel, and on our sponsor, Yahoo, he's coming in at $44. So let's break this matchup down, because it is, whether we like him or not, it is basically the cheapest we're going to get Blake Snell all year.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think $9K on DraftKings and FanDuel, $44 on Yahoo. Those are pretty mid-range prices. As you pointed out, he's fared not so well against some good offenses, which is the trend is continuing tonight, facing another good offense. And I think that when you have a great pitcher facing an offense like Minnesota, where the strikeouts aren't very easy, they have good above average numbers in both getting on base and power. I think that you can't really and any interest you have in Snell is just purely based on the talent and not the matchup, because the matchup's pretty miserable. And I just think, the price deduction is pretty nice. I think he's on the fringe of being playable, but I'm not very excited about him.
Adam, I know you and I a lot of shows this season have been very much willing to get to Blake Snell in tough spots just because of the strikeout upside. The Boston Red Sox a couple weeks ago being a pretty good example of going overweight on him and getting good results. I played a little Blake Snell against the Yankees, and, well, we all know how that worked out. Look, he does have some blow-up spots, right? Like, it's just fact. He's allowed 6+ runs in 3 of his last 10. You don't see that with some guys, but he's definitely a big-time strikeout pitcher with a big-time drop in price point. But let's factor everything in. I'll let you do that and build off of what Alex just said, or disagree as far as the strikeout matchup goes and his price point.
No, I agree with Alex that if you're rostering him, it is because of the talent. It's not because of the matchup. The matchup is brutal. The Twins have they're in the bottom third of the league in strikeout percentage against left-handed pitching. They have a 126 WRC plus against left-handed pitching and an ISO over 200. So it's a really bad spot there. Snell clearly has struggled in his last couple of starts. He's faced bad opponents, but he's also not throwing strikes or pitches in the strike zone. So that's an issue. It's just that for me, the price tag coming down accounts for the matchup. It accounts for the issues throwing strikes. Unless you think he's hurt or something, which his velocity doesn't suggest that he is, there's not really a reason to think that because he didn't throw pitches in the strike zone his last 2 starts, he won't be able to tonight. And he's one of the most talented pitchers in baseball. He's got the 6th best PCRA this season. He has the third. He struck out 32.6% of hitters. He leads the entire league, all starting pitchers, in 700 with at least 750 pitches thrown in called strike plus 2-strike percentage. He's 15th in 2-strike percentage. Like, he's really, really good. And the price tag is fair. I don't expect him to have a ton of ownership here. So I will be getting the sum in tournaments just because of the talent. But again, it's not surprising at all if he has a bad start again.
What do you make of that insane walk rate over the last few games?
I don't really – I mean, he's always been someone that has struggled with walks. I don't really think there's a reason to expect that because he walked a lot of guys in his last couple of games that he's going to walk a lot of guys today necessarily. He certainly could. He's not a great control pitcher as is. But, for the season, he's walked 9.9% of hitters, and he still leads every starting pitcher in called strike plus swinging strike percentage. So he's still, getting his as far as strikes go. Unless he's injured and, making up for the injury by changing his mechanics, I don't know why a couple of recent starts would lead to a different expectation for today's game.
All right, good stuff. Do you have any interest in hitters here? Or I guess we could talk for a moment about Kyle Gibson. You want to talk about one of the more hit or miss pitchers in the league. Kyle Gibson's 30 fantasy points or 6, it feels like. So I think he's good, but Tampa Bay, while they will strike out a decent amount, they're still a pretty formidable opponent.
Yeah, I mean, they're a good offense, and Gibson, he's a good enough pitcher, but it's just tough for me to get to Gibson when he's more expensive than Flaherty, Price, Bumgarner. He's almost the same price as Snell, who, obviously the matchup is tough for Snell, but it's not like it's great for Gibson either.
Right.
I just don't see getting to a lot of Gibson today.
Yeah, on another slate I would, not today. Any Gibson?
Also 5 lefties.
What's up?
Also 5 lefties in the lineup.
Right.
For Tampa Bay.
And many of them were good. Any interest? Any interest in Gibson, Alex?
I think on FanDuel you could play him. 7,700. That's pretty low compared to some of the other pitchers who are decent plays. And as you mentioned, Tampa Bay Rays strike out a decent amount of them, exactly league average today. So I think he's a play, but in the context of the slate, maybe it's a little bit hard to get to him.
Okay, what are you doing with the rest of this game?
I think that you could also stamp Tampa against them, or stack Tampa against them. They're just about fairly priced on all 3 sites, but and the ownership is quite low, so I think that's a play with their team total of 5.2. I think I'll have some of that.
Adam, you want to add anything on hitters here?
Nope, I forgot this game existed.
Okay, good. Well, except for Blake Snell.
Right, of course.
Right, yes, of course. Okay, Seattle, Milwaukee. Alex, back to you. Marco Gonzalez. Been an absolute shit show this season, and I'm not sure it gets any better today. Zach Davies has been – he's an average pitcher who's pitched above his head, in my opinion, and pretty much the statistics would bear that out as well. This game at Miller Park, lefty-friendly, homer-friendly. Well, I'll just get this out of the way first. Any interest in pitching?
I see Davies has some projected ownership, but I'm not on him. The strikeout numbers are so low, and
they're terrible.
Yeah, Seattle's lineup. I think usually they're a pretty hard team to strike out, but today they're a better than average matchup for pitchers against for strikeouts. But the amount he strikes out guys is just too low to really have a lot of fantasy value.
How about bats?
I think the Brewers are definitely great plays today. For some reason on Yahoo, all the left-handed bats are priced up and the right-handed bats are priced down versus the lefty Gonzalez, which is peculiar. So I think on Yahoo, Braun and Jesus Aguilar make really nice cash plays, and you can make a nice stack from the team as well. And then on DraftKings and FanDuel, all the righties are really good values, and the lefties are good contrarian plays.
Okay. Adam, what are your thoughts on this one as far as bats go? Or if you're loading up on Marco Gonzalez, please enlighten me.
No, I mean, neither stack's my favorite. I do think Milwaukee's appealing for the reasons Alex said. You get some pretty cheap bats, especially toward the bottom of the order with, Aguilar batting 5th, but then Perez 7th, and Orlando Arcia has made some strides at the plate this year as well, batting 9th. And then obviously you get, really good hitters at the top. Braun's underpriced as well. And Marco Gonzalez has one of the highest fly ball percentages on the slate. So going from whatever they're calling Safeco Field now to Milwaukee is a pretty big downgrade for him. With how many fly balls he gives up. So interested in Milwaukee. Had people in Slack ask about my interest in Seattle because Davies really isn't that good. He's allowed a 200 ISO to lefties. The issue for me is just that Seattle's still expensive and their hitters just aren't comparable in terms of talent to a lot of the other teams on the slate at similar prices. So while it is a huge park upgrade for them and they do have a ton of lefties in this lineup in a park that really, really plays up left-handed power, it's just still tough for me to get there on a 15-game slate.
All right. Do we want to include anything else in this game that we've yet to talk about yet? Adam, with hitters here, Alex mentioned Aguilar, and it does seem that Milwaukee always offers a little bit of intrigue when you got like a relatively nice priced Ryan Braun. No Lorenzo Cain, but I do like Braun. I do like Aguilar. Aside from that, I don't know how easy it's going to be to pay a massive price tag for Christian Yelich just because of how many great options there are at a similar price point.
Yeah, I mean, the tough thing for me with Milwaukee is that the guys that I like the most are Braun and Aguilar, and they're, Braun's an outfielder, Aguilar is a first baseman, so the opportunity cost for both of those guys is massive on this slate.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I almost feel like it's even bigger in the outfield, even though you have 3 of them, just because of San Diego, Yankees, Chicago, so many good outfielders that you can load up 3 to a team and feel pretty good about it. Anything else here, Alex, or shall we move on?
Seattle might be worth a flyer, but they're not priced very well. But other than that, I think we can move on.
All right, let's keep it going. What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, we are moving quick, boys. Houston and Pittsburgh. Adam, what do we got here? Gerrit Cole, Trevor Williams. One of the rare slates where I don't have Gerrit Cole as my top guy.
Yeah, I'm still interested in him, but not getting to a lot just because I do have him projected behind Scherzer. The thing for me, though, is like Pittsburgh doesn't strike out a lot, but neither does this version of the Marlins. Cole has the highest strikeout percentage by a lot, even on this slate at 38%. He has the best PCRA in baseball. He's a really, really good pitcher, and if you're going to get an ownership discount between him and Scherzer, along with like saving $1,000, I am interested. But again, I just don't know how much I'm getting all the way up to the top tier pitching today.
Okay. Yeah, it feels like it's a little bit prohibitive all the way up at that tier as well. Alex, where do you stand on Gerrit Cole?
I mean, really good pitcher, but Pittsburgh's lineup today, every single batter in the lineup is below average strikeouts. So I'm just not seeing that strikeout potential we're used to. And compared to Scherzer facing the Marlins, I definitely prefer Scherzer.
So do I. Do you prefer any bats in this game on either side? I mean, it's tough to get on Pittsburgh, and Trevor Williams hasn't been terrible. He's actually been quite decent, but I'm not recommending him here. It's just he's okay. The Houston Astros are not very expensive on some sites though either.
Yeah, I think on Yahoo and DraftKings, the Astros make a really good stack. On DraftKings, Altuve is mispriced at $3,900. He's been batting really well, and he's got a great spot in the order, and a fantastic player to begin with, so I really like him. On FanDuel, they're priced up a little bit more, so actually their ownership projection is only 0.4% of ownership, so that makes me really interested because it's like you have to compete with so many fewer people if you stack them up. So I think the price tags are pretty comical, like almost averaging 4K for the first 5. But if you can figure out a cheap pitcher to compare with that, I can see it.
Yeah, what about you, Adam?
Yeah, some interest in Houston. I have them between like the 5th and 10th highest stack in my initial crunch. Springer being back certainly helps their upside. Altuve still really cheap on DraftKings in particular. Bregman's affordable. Like the whole team's affordable. Nobody's over 5K on DraftKings. Williams isn't bad, but he's not great. It's just a spot where like you're taking a shot on a really, really talented offense. The problem is just that there's a lot of really talented offenses in really good spots today. And so that will kind of keep my exposure down.
Okay. Yeah, again, some of these games, we just don't have a lot to talk about. You can read all of our content. Check out the ownership projections, the player projections, lineup cruncher, fantasy cruncher add-on, the MLB Data Central, Adam's article, my article, Josh Engelman's article, Ben Ross's PGA articles, all of that. You can check it out at awesemo.com if you want to get a look beyond what we're doing here on YouTube. If you do so and you want to check it out and you want to join us over at the Awesemo family and you want to hang out in Slack chat and say what's up, use the promo code Deeper Dive. That's the code to sign up. Deeper Dive, all one word, and you get 50% off, half off your first month of subscription at awesemo.com. It's an Awesemo Plus membership. We'd love to see you over there. Use the promo code Deeper Dive at awesemo.com. That's all one word, Deeper Dive. Sign up over there at awesemo.com. We look forward to seeing you over there. All right, 4 to go. St. Louis, Oakland, Adam, Chris Bassett. What an egregious price tag that is on DraftKings. Jack Flaherty, I think he's also underpriced, but so does everybody else. And long discussion on this morning's show. It is a very, very, very steep, well, not even an asking price, but at 27% projected ownership on Jack Flaherty here. You better hope that his splits against righties pull through, because this is not an Oakland team that strikes out all that often. Now they do have all but three righties in their lineup, but they've got a bottom 10 or bottom 5% K rate versus righties on their active roster.
Yeah, 21.1% strikeout percentage against righties this year. It's low, but I'm expecting Flaherty to be one of my highest owned pitchers just because of the right-handed leans of the lineup. Like, he is priced across. He's 7,900 on DraftKings and on FanDuel, 42 on Yahoo. That price tag clearly is in line with his overall season numbers, where he struck out 26.7% of hitters. But against righties, he struck out over 32% this season. Since last season, he struck out about 34%. He's not at a price point where I need a ton of strikeouts from him, but that opportunity is certainly there given the 6 righties in the lineup, including the pitcher. No Chris Davis certainly doesn't hurt either. So, I'm getting to a lot of Jack Flaherty here.
How much are you getting to, Alex?
Yeah, I think on DraftKings and Yahoo, it makes a lot of sense because having a pitcher in that price tag who's a plus value is pretty nice. As Adam mentioned, 27% Ks on the year, which is pretty good. Oakland's not a bad team. Just about average strikeouts. Just about average in pretty much every stat today. So I think not excited about the matchup, but just the strikeouts Flaherty has gotten this year make me interested at that price to roster him. I think it's just also a matter of there being so few playable pitchers on the slate that I think it makes sense that a lot of ownership is gathering on him.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. You have ownership concentrated around the few players. He's definitely one of them. Outside of Flaherty, though, are you interested in any St. Louis bats or any Oakland bats? I will point out that these St. Louis bats, particularly on DraftKings, are really, really cheap, which is why they have ownership projections that's way higher than their top stack probability. Like, it all comes down to those price tags. And my assumption is people just trying to fit Max Scherzer into lineups.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. Just that cheap stack that fits some expensive pitching is how you end up on them. On Yahoo, they're extremely underpriced. I have them as a 10% chance of being the top value of the day. So that also means their ownership is going to be even higher on Yahoo than the other sites. But there are some nice individual plays here, like Carpenter leading off, underpriced on all three sites, and Goldschmidt just continues to be underpriced this season because he hasn't lived up to his career stats at all.
Adam?
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I think you nailed it, Lofty, when you mentioned that they're one of the teams that's going to let people pay up for pitching that they want to pay up for. So while they're priced, it's not like it's a great matchup. Bassett, even going back to last year, has allowed virtually no power to righties in particular. It's a predominantly right-handed lineup. You have very favorable price tags on Carpenter, DeYoung, really on everyone. But I just think that maybe a little bit overowned, and more so. Even more importantly than that, just not in as good a spot as a ton of other teams.
Right, exactly. It's not great. I actually had interest in them this morning until I realized how cheap they were, and then it just became pretty apparent that they were going to be very popular. This next game, Adam, with the Dodgers and Arizona Diamondbacks, features Robbie Ray and Ross Stripling, who last time out threw 45 pitches, so not a lot. On the other side, one thing that has really impressed me about Robbie Ray lately is two of his first 14 starts this season, only two of them did he go 6 innings. He didn't go past 6 innings once. He's gone 6 or more innings in all of his last 4 starts, and it's funny because he's traded off all of those walks outside of one start for home runs, but when Robbie Ray goes deep into games, he's so much more valuable. He even had a great start against this Dodger team. The problem is he's not cheap, and, well, at least not on DraftKings he's not cheap. I believe on Yahoo he actually is relatively discounted. Yeah, 38. He's actually really discounted. I just think he's a good enough pitcher that if he's $38, seeing that he's been pitching deeper into games, I'm willing to take him at a value, but not when he's close to the price of like Shane Bieber and way more than Bumgarner in price.
Yeah, exactly. On Yahoo, I think it's perfectly fine. He has a 30% strikeout percentage this year. He's only $1 more than Madison Bumgarner. He's less expensive than Flaherty. He's the same price as Max Fried. So he's priced for the matchup on Yahoo, but on DraftKings at 9,900 or on FanDuel at 8,900, I just don't see myself getting there because it is still a difficult matchup against the Dodgers. The roof is open, I believe, the roof's open in Arizona again, so that doesn't favor Ray either, and he's not really doing anything at those price points to help you get bats into your lineup either, so he kind of falls into like Shane Bieber territory for me.
Yeah, Alex, let's keep this conversation going. What are your thoughts on the two arms for this game?
On the two pitchers, you said? Sorry.
Yeah, the two pitchers.
Stripling, I think that they're probably not going to go deep enough to really warrant consideration because he hasn't been a starter in a while. Ray, as you guys mentioned, the matchup's pretty terrible. And I like Adam's play of Ray on Yahoo where the price is more reasonable.
Adam's play, he says, yeah.
Oh, my bad.
I'm kidding. It was pretty obvious. What about bats, Alex? Does anyone stand out to you here? Ray's been good, but he has allowed some power recently. Adam, you said the roof's going to be open?
Yeah.
So do you like, if Kike or Turner at the top of the lineup, either of you guys have interest in anyone here in this game?
Yeah, I always have some interest in the Dodgers, but I'm just not getting to a lot of them on this particular slate because there's a lot of really good offenses in better spots.
Yep, I agree. Alex?
I think they make a really nice mini stack on all the sites. In particular, one guy that will really help if he's in the lineup is Kyle Garlick at 2.2K. Just a guy that has a lot of power, and he could definitely win you a GVP at that price tag. And then the other right-hander is, against Ray with that platoon advantage are appealing.
Okay. Any Arizona bats, Adam?
No, I'm good. Stripling, not stretched out like you said, but still a good pitcher.
Yes, he is. All right, San Francisco, Colorado, Madison Bumgarner, Chichi Gonzalez back at the major league level. Alex, Madison Bumgarner is probably, unless let me make sure we don't have a lineup yet. I don't think we do. He's probably going to face another 6 lefties today, which is insane. Like very, very rarely do you see a team run out, 5 or 6 lefties against the lefty. But the Rockies did it yesterday. They don't have Trevor Story. Most of their best hitters are left-handed. And I don't even know if Ian Desmond's going to play, which would obviously make it 6 again. Even if it's 5, God, it just seems like a very appealing spot. But, of course, Bumgarner pretty popular here on this slate. I just think there's so many ways to differentiate with hitters that it doesn't really matter that much. And it's a great park. What are your thoughts on Bumgarner?
Yeah, it's funny, man. Like, at DraftKings, they had an event at Coors, and they introduced us to, like, the high-tech, like, Colorado, like, sabermetrics department or something. It's like, dude, like, how do they have this roster where they're rolling out 6 lefties versus a left-handed pitcher?
Right.
Like, that's so crazy. And yesterday we saw Ian Desmond didn't even make the lineup, and he's one of their better righties. So it's really
he's hurt.
Oh, he's hurt. Okay.
I believe he's dealing with not a lower calf issue, a lower half issue. So we'll find out what that is.
That's a hockey injury.
Well, no, they at least call it a lower body injury in hockey.
Yeah,
not a lower half. Yeah,
so,
go ahead, Alex.
I think Bumgarner is definitely a top play. Like, the price tag does not reflect his the fact that he's going to be going up against so many lefties. Like, one of the lower team totals on the slate for Colorado. Just really reasonably priced. He's going to fit pretty much any lineup that you want to make tonight.
I agree. I really like Bumgarner here, and I have not liked him much at all this season, Adam.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. If pretty much regardless of what lineup the Rockies run out there, because we know that it won't have Story. It may or may not have Desmond. It may or may not have Arrieta over Walters. But it's just going to still be a good pitcher's park. It's still going to be a Colorado offense getting out of Coors. And then there's a chance that you're getting more lefties in there. And Bumgarner has struck out a little over 30% of left-handed hitters this year. So it's either a good spot or a great spot, depending on what lineup Colorado runs out there.
Agreed. What are your thoughts on the rest of this game? Oh, and by the way, we saw Pomeranz strike out double-digit batters yesterday, and he's Drew Pomeranz.
Also a better strikeout pitcher than Bumgarner. But
what'd you say? What'd you say?
I said I think he's also a better strikeout pitcher than Bumgarner, but your point stands.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely – I think we all mentioned yesterday that he'd been pretty unlucky. But, I mean, what do you have, 11 or 12 strikeouts is uncharacteristically good. Anyway, what are your thoughts on the rest of this game?
Bumgarner was pretty much my only thoughts on the game. Brandon Belt's leading off. He's cheap. He's good. You can certainly get there, and nobody ever rosters him. Chichi Gonzalez isn't very good, but he's cheap and facing the Giants in San Francisco. So if you're playing 150 lineups and get a little bit, I think that's fine. But overall, my interest is basically just Bumgarner. All
right. Do you have any other interest in this game, Adam or Alex?
Yeah, maybe going with Bumgarner, Belt, Posey, mini stack, just those old-time Giants. Posey is particularly good price for cash games, but not really a power batter. So good cash play if he fits in your lineup.
All right. Well, we've reached the end of the road, boys. This is what we call good timing, economical. We've got one game to go here, and 15 up, 15 down. LA Angels, Cincinnati Reds. Adam, Andrew Heaney, Tyler Mahle. I went on a bit of a run today talking about Heaney's last few starts and how brutal it's been from an outside swing and outside contact standpoint. His outside swing rate is way down and outside contact is way up. And it's not that surprising to know that his sinker isn't getting 15% whiffs anymore. So I'm not super surprised by it. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of some of the matchups, but I think Andrew Heaney's still good. I think he still has pretty good strikeout stuff, but expecting double-digit strikeouts every night was fool's errand.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's basically showing what all of us expected. He wasn't as good as he was in those first 3 starts, and he's not as bad as he is in these last 2 starts against Toronto and Tampa. He gets an okay matchup here against the Reds. The price tag isn't egregious, but it's not really favorable either, especially when he's still, more expensive than Price and Bumgarner and Flaherty. So Probably will have some in tournaments, but I would definitely expect I have less of him than all of those other guys I just named.
Yeah, I would expect the same thing. What about you, Alex? Tyler Mahle and Andrew Heaney here in this only the lone 10 o'clock game.
The Angels are never a good strikeout matchup, so I'm gonna cross off Mahle, and then Heaney. I think he's a little priced out of consideration on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he is more reasonably priced, but there are just a lot of pitchers in that range from 7 to 8K that are playable, and I think he'll be kind of lost in the shuffle. So I think he could be a good contrarian pitcher on FanDuel.
Do you like the Angel Bats here against Mahle?
I'm always like Trout, and the fact that no one's going to be stacking the team up makes him appealing as a one-off. And Ohtani on FanDuel is pretty reasonably priced. But other than that, I couldn't see myself getting to a stack just because there's so many other teams projected to do much better.
How about you, Adams? Any of these lefties, Ohtani, Calhoun, LaStella against Mahle?
Yeah, I like Ohtani as a one-off. I am also going to end up with some Mahle just because of talent. I think that he's the best pitcher on the slate, or most talented pitcher on the slate, below Jack Flaherty in price. So I'm going to get to some, even though it's a bad matchup.
Okay. I thought you were going to say the most talented pitcher on the slate.
No.
At the end the stream right there.
We can play that. I paused though, so we can play that clip.
Oh, no question about it. Any thoughts on Reds bats against Heaney? Any one-off interest? Because I guess I should at least point out he has been allowing home runs. I mean, he's allowed 7 home runs in 5 starts, only 25 innings. Even when he was getting strikeouts, he gave up power.
Yeah, $3,700 Suarez sticks out. The issue is just that he's the same position as Guerrero, who is a similar play, like a really good hitter who's underpriced, and he's even less expensive. But yeah, Suarez would be my favorite guy here.
Yeah, I'd probably take Suarez over Guerrero, but it's definitely an argument to be made. Cincinnati bats for you, Alex, before we close this out?
I agree with Suarez, and Peraza looks like a really good value on DraftKings and Yahoo, but probably not making the cut tonight.
All right, top stacks, boys. Adam, who do you have? Give us a pair.
Yankees and Padres.
Okay, Alex.
I like every stack tonight.
Staying with the theme.
But I'll give a couple just of the ones that I like the most. So I think Boston as a contrarian play, and then there's so many teams that it's hard to keep track of them all.
No.
And Milwaukee also looks like they might go underround.
Okay. Give me Yankees, give me Padres, and Phillies. That'll do it for us. As always, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Good luck tonight. If you like the show, you want to see more of it, and want to help us support the channel and the site, give us a thumbs up, like the video. It helps us out greatly, and we really appreciate it. Subscribe, hit that notification bell as well so you always know when content's dropping next. Until next time, we'll see you back here on the Deeper Dive. Stick around on the channel. Live Before Lock coming up next, taking you till 7:05 Eastern Time. Good luck tonight. We'll see you on Wednesday.